It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah. D-U-E-U.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we've reached the Super Bowl in the 2020 NFL season between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now let's take a look at the tail of the tape statistically between these two squads. What's interesting about these two teams as we look at the tail of the tape is that both of their strengths lie in the passing game. The Chiefs have the number 1 passing offense in the NFL, while the Buccaneers have the number 2 rated passing game, and both teams have excellent quarterbacks leading those units, and as they are both entering this game playing some of the best ball of the season. And that very reason is also why you can't overlook the Bucs rushing numbers. Yes, they are 28th, and that looks bad on paper, but in the playoffs, the Bucs have been able to run the football. The run game has started to hit its stride with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones forming a strong 1-2 punch in the backfield, and Fournette has really been on the tear during these playoffs, averaging over 4.5 yards a carry in those 3 games, while also scoring a touchdown in each one of those games, a rushing touchdown that is. And if they're going to knock out the Chiefs, they'll need him to put together another stellar performance. Now the Chiefs' ground game is effective and it's efficient, and when they need to run the football, they definitely can. They also utilize a short, quick passing game as a supplement to their run game. So I'm excited to see what their game plan is against this very aggressive defense of Tampa Bay as we enter the Super Bowl. And speaking of defense, let's take a look at the defensive coordinators in this game, because I do think the coordinators overall will have a huge impact in this contest. We know about the head coach Andy Reid for Kansas City and Bruce Arians for Tampa Bay, but taking a look at the Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo has really gotten his unit to play its best ball from week 9 on throughout the way and throughout the playoffs, because again, they've gotten healthier, they're playing more assignment sound defense, and they're turning the ball over, and we're starting to see their pass rush come to life with Chris Jones leading the way up front. So they're doing a great job at all 3 levels of their defense. Now, when we look at Todd Bowles' defense, getting Villa back is huge. He helps stop the run. Their run defense is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the NFL. But that pressure package that he brings coming from all angles, linebackers from the outside, defensive line stunts, getting creative up front with how they generate pressure, and also moving their move piece at safety around the formation. I'm talking about their rookie, Antoine Winfield Jr. He does a great job in applying pressure. So they apply pressure with the blitz. They apply pressure with their ability to play assignment sound, gap sound within the run game. And on the outside at corner, they're in your face, they're pressing you at the line of scrimmage, and they're forcing you to make quick decisions, or they're trying to force you to hold that football long enough so that pressure gets back there and puts the quarterback on the ground. So both defensive coordinators, I believe, are coaching their best ball at this juncture of the season in the Super Bowl. So again, defensively, we should see a really good game. And on the offensive side of the ball, looking at the Buccaneers offensive coordinator and Byron Leftwich, the former quarterback, he's done a great job this year. He's starting to mix things up and has gotten Tom Brady to play some of the best ball of his career with all the weapons that he has at his disposal. It's been exciting to see what they've been able to do during these playoffs, switching things up at the right time. Now on the Chiefs side, we know about Eric Bieniemy and what he does to coach players, not plays. He's getting the best guys to football in crucial situations. That's why the Chiefs offense just looks like a well-oiled machine. So both offensive coordinators are coaching their best ball so far, and they're both being creative, dynamic, and they're thinking, hey, who is my best player in this situation? Let's get him the football, and that's why they're having the amount of success they've had so far in the postseason. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. People have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with the huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
I love football. I cannot get enough of football. I watch it on every level.
The emotional release. Whether it's an exciting play that gets you all jacked up and juiced, or whether it's the fact that you're able to pour everything you have. Whatever frustration you had that week, you can put into that first kickoff coverage, that first block that you have, whatever it might be.
And I couldn't think of anything better to do to fill that void that you have as a football player than to get into coaching.
You get a chance to release a lot of emotion that you otherwise have no place to release. There's nothing else like that.
Again, the relationships you build and the people you're around and watching the guys compete, not just on the football field, but in life after they get done playing. It's just an amazing game.
Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security, Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. StewardshipCredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. And welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. That's Chris James. You've seen him on our fantasy football starting lineup show. And now it's time to talk Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to start with the Chiefs here and start with Chris's keys to victory. So, CJ, start with the offense. We know the Chiefs' offense is outstanding. What do they have to do to have some success?
The number one thing they have to do early in this game is be patient. They're missing both of their starting offensive tackles from the beginning of the year. So if they're patient, take what the Bucs give them early, they'll start to frustrate those pass rushers in JPP and in Shaq Barrett, who are just itching to get at the quarterback. And that's when they can actually take advantage of that defense, a very aggressive defense. What they also have to do is take one of the best players on the Bucs defense, a guy who's killed it this postseason, in Devin White, and really affect him. How do you do that? You use Nicole Hardman and you use Tyreek Hill with a lot of motion, flash across his face, and use his strengths, I should say, speed and quick reaction, and turn them into weaknesses. So that's what they need to do on the offensive side of the ball.
When you think about the run game for Kansas City, a lot of people may have looked at it as, they're going to be significantly better this year with the addition of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What do you think they have to do to get something going running the football, or do they even have to worry about it?
I think that they do need to worry about it, but it doesn't need to be a traditional run set. They can actually do things like little shovel passes, get them out on the edge. And one thing that we've learned about a guy like Darrell Williams, he can do those things. He can do these things and do them very efficiently. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the more explosive of the two backs, and I think they actually start to utilize him more in this game than they have in the past.
Defensively, they've gotten better over the course of the season. So what are some of your keys to victory for them defensively against Tampa?
One thing that they have to do, to be honest, they have to play 3 safeties often. Look, you have 2 combo safeties in Tyrann Mathieu and Juan Thornhill that you can play high, you can play in the box, and you can play in the slot if necessary. Put that third guy, Daniel Sorensen, out there. One thing that he can do is he can be a de facto linebacker for you, and he can also kind of spy against a guy like Gronk because physically he matches up well enough at this stage of Gronk's career to be effective against him in coverage. Another thing that they need to do not be afraid. This is the last game of the season. Don't be afraid to blitz Brady. Early in the season, teams such as the Saints and the Rams got after him with 4. As that offensive line has played better, Brady's been more comfortable. So you have to force the hand of the Bucs by blitzing him, get him off his spot, and making Brady look like he did in the second half against Green Bay when they started to blitz.
Now, before I let you get out of here, what's your pick for the game?
I'm hoping this is going to be a good game. The weather's going to kind of actually lean towards Kansas City, but I'm looking for them to kind of pull away late. I'm going with a 31-21 score with Kansas City pulling this one out. And I actually want to give a bonus point. So I live in Tampa, Florida, for those of you all who haven't seen the show before. So I'm going to get a lot of flack for my pick, but I'm going to go back to the point I said about using against Devin White, his eyes. They're going to use Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman, and don't be surprised if a guy like Eric Bieniemy, a great offensive coordinator, dials up an over-the-top play to a local product out of Robinson High School, I should say. That's Byron Pringle, Kansas State product. So don't be surprised if you see that at some point in the game, especially once they start to get the Bucs defense to press up.
And now we're joined by Brandon Howard of The Athletic. You've seen him on the show before. Brandon, you're here to talk about your key matchup for Kansas City. There's a lot of ways you can go in this ball game for the matchup, but what's the key matchup you're focused on in this contest?
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead with the trench play. I know that's unlike me. I'm normally talking about the skill position guys. But, in this one, you got Mike Rimmer in there, and then you got Andrew Wiley. So, we all know that Schwartz was hurt, earlier in the season. Then also you got Fisher, who went out as well. So we're going to see, how they kind of supplement that and make that work. So it's going to be interesting, to see how all that plays out.
Now, here's along the offensive line. You know how continuity is king. So if you're Kansas City, how do you try to, in a short week, so to speak, 2 weeks to prepare for this game, get that offensive line to gel together, facing arguably the best run defense in the NFL and one of the more aggressive defensive fronts in the NFL?
Absolutely. So, you get 2 weeks to prepare, and this is where, you got Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy who, in 2 weeks, and their scripted plays are normally just flames. They come out swinging. So I think that one way you can do it is the screen game. You get those guys to rush upfield. You get the slip screens going. Get those guys to get tired out, the defensive ends. To tire themselves out. Get that going, and also some misdirection. Get a little bit of that going as well. To try to give them pause before they rush upfield. So I think that those are some things that they can utilize to kind of mitigate that pass rush.
If there's one guy on that defensive front 7 that you have to get blocked, who's that guy for you?
That guy is JPP for me. But, the dark horse in that one is also Ndamukong Suh, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's outstanding. He's been outstanding his entire career. It's weird to think that he came into the league with Nick Fairley back in Detroit, how good that defensive line was. But before we get you out of here, Brandon, what's your pick on the game and why?
I'm going to go ahead with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with them 32-25. Just overall, just too much firepower and too much brain power with the coaches there.
All right, and there you have it. And we'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plans NFL All 32. Welcome back to Football Game Plans NFL All 32. Now let's toss it over to Gene Clemons, who gives you his breakdown, his keys to victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, I mean, you gotta love what the Bucs bring to the table. 3 legitimate number 1 receivers out there that can make things happen from the outside, that can make things happen from the slot. You add a 4th receiver in like a Scotty Miller. You add a 5th receiver in like a Tyler Johnson, and there's playmakers all around the place at the receiving core. You gotta love the 2 tight ends. Brate has had a reemergence over the last few weeks. He's been implemented more in the game. And watch out for Rob Gronkowski, because I believe if Kansas City starts trying to bring pressure, he's going to be old faithful for Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's going to really look for him to be that release valve for him in those clutch moments.
You talk about the offense, and how about those two running backs in Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette? What are your thoughts on those guys this season and what you think they can do in this game?
Well, I think they're an underrated duo, and the funny part is we haven't really had the opportunity to see both of them at full strength, understanding the offense at the same time. That could be what we see in the Super Bowl if the Kansas City Chiefs decide to limit what Tampa Bay can do in the pass game by really trying to put the pressure on those receivers. You could see a guy like Fournette and a guy like Ronald Jones have some decent games where together they may equal somewhere close to 100 yards, which may be enough to put the Buccaneers over the top.
Defensively speaking, one of the best defenses in the game, Tampa Bay, as far as applying pressure and stopping the run. What is your biggest key to victory defensively for the Bucs in this one?
I think number one, they have to keep Patrick Mahomes in the tackle box. I know that people believe that, oh, well, you know, you got to get him. No. You don't want Patrick Mahomes breaking that tackle box, allowing everything to now shift from one dynamic. You want him to have to escape north and south. I actually diagrammed it earlier on a piece that I did for The Athletic, where I looked at how when they made him flush forward, they were able to come off of their blocks and make tackles on him. That also brings both of their linebackers in play, because Tampa Bay probably has the two most unique linebackers to be able to deal with quarterbacks that have an ability to rush, because we know how athletic both of those guys are and what they bring to the table for this Tampa Bay defense in the run game.
Now, before we get out of here, I have to ask you, I know you're a Bucs fan, have your Bucs shirt on, but what's your pick for the game this weekend?
Obviously, my heart is with Tampa Bay, and so I would love it if Tampa Bay wins. I hope that I am wrong, but I think that this is the worst matchup for Tampa Bay. I think Kansas City is just, they're dynastic. I think that if everything stays well, we'll be talking about Kansas City for the next few years. I like Kansas City going away, and if you're a betting person, I would take Kansas City in the over in a 2-pick parlay. So that's what I got.
And now we're going to go to Turron Davenport with ESPN joining us here on the show to talk key matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs in this ballgame. Turron, appreciate you taking time. What is the key matchup you're looking to watch in this game for Kansas City's sake?
Well, you know, everybody's going to look at Tyreek Hill, and rightfully so, because he is one of the most dangerous players in this game. But I think you have to look at Travis Kelce going against whether it be zone defense or man defense. And in my opinion, that guy's just simply unstoppable. Because if you go man, he has that route running ability and that wiggle at the line. Just go back to the Browns game where he made Denzel Ward their best cover corner fall just because of his little sauce that he puts on the route. So he's someone that if you cover him man, whether it be, I mean, whoever you want to put on him, it's not really a good matchup. But then if you go to zone, he just has that ability to run routes and that craftiness. He knows where those zones are going to appear, and he just throttles down, or he'll run through from one zone into the next one and find that window for Patrick Mahomes to throw him the football. I mean, when you put him in the red zone, no tight end scored more touchdowns than Travis Kelce in the red zone during the season, and he's unstoppable.
Do you think that, let's say, Tampa will come into this game underestimating his ability as a blocker? Because let's say Tampa wants to come in and blitz, they may have to keep Kelce in at bay to block, because we know they're a little bit, reshuffling up front. Do you think his blocking can play that much of an impact as well?
I think his blocking could have an impact, but make no mistake about it, he's a pass catcher. That's what he does. That's his bread and butter. But he does have the ability to just get in the way enough to allow things to happen. If he has to seal that end, he could get there and just hold his spot so they could run outside. But it's really just his presence as a pass catcher, I think, just supersedes everything.
And before we get you out of here, I want to ask you your pick on the game. Who do you have and why?
Oh, man, it's so tough. I want to say the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes and what he brings, but I'm going to go with the Bucs, and here's why. that offensive line for the Chiefs is really banged up. Left tackle's out, right tackle's going to be out. I mean, it's going to be tough. And when you got guys like JPP, Shaq Barrett, and Ndamukong Suh in the middle, I think it's just too much. And offensively, Mike Evans, I personally, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he gets the MVP. Like, it's easy to say Tom Brady gets it. I'm going to say Mike Evans gets the MVP. I love guys that score in the red zone. And you know what it is with him, man. He goes up and he gets those rebounds, right? And he's another guy that's unstoppable in the red zone. So I'm going with the Bucs over the Chiefs. And, Eric Bieniemy, I hate to see him and Andy Reid and the guys lose, but, I would love to see Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles and Harold Goodwin win. So I'm going with the Bucs on this one.
Now, unlike Turron, I'm going with the Chiefs in this ball game. Too much offensive firepower. I think what we saw earlier in the season was just a sign of things to come in this ball game. So look for the Chiefs to move on to their second consecutive Super Bowl title. So that's it for this season edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32. I am Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. That's where you can find our Scout Team podcast. And keep an eye out here on Game Plus Network later in the winter as we bring you Scout Team from Football Game Plan Scouting.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.